Hey there, I'm Rick Partlow. Welcome back to How to Write Science Fiction That Doesn't Suck. Today, we are going to talk about titles. It's something I don't talk about very much, something that I don't think a lot of these shows talk about very much, and yet it's pretty key to selling your book. Um, Besides the cover and the blurb, the title of the book is really what draws people's attention to it. And whereas I mostly talk about craft, coming up with a good title is part of the craft. But there is a intersect where craft crosses over with the business end of this. Um, I have had so many, when I first started out writing and first started out publishing, I've had so many titles that I started writing the book with this title in mind. And then when I got to the actual time to publish it, I was forced to change it. Um, Sometimes because the title did not really match the genre, sometimes because uh, it wasn't catchy enough to market, and sometimes for the very simple reason that most people don't think about until they actually have to do it, that the title is not going to look good on the cover. Now you have to remember, if you are indie publishing or publishing with a small publisher, most of your book sales are going to be ebooks, with some people having a a very large minority, or sometimes even a majority of audiobooks. But those two things have one factor in common, and that's that when people look at your book online, in audio or ebook, they're seeing a small thumbnail, and they will be buying it online, and they will not have a book cover in front of them like at the bookstore or the library where you can see the full picture, you can read all the words, you can turn it around and read the back. They will have a small version of your cover. And if you have too many words on that cover, it's not going to look good. It's not going to attract their attention in a good way. So, um, if you have a title that's something poetic, which I used to fall into this trap a lot of coming up with a title that was poetic. There's there is a part of a poem that I always wanted to use as a title. I believe it's from The Second Coming by oh, I forget who wrote The Second Coming off the top of my head, but you know who I mean. Uh, Turning and turning in the widening gyre, the falcon cannot hear the falconer, uh, and everywhere the blood dim tide. The really apocalyptic poem that was written from 19th century, I think. I think of Burroughs, maybe. Anyway, I didn't look it up before this. Sorry about that. But anyway, there's lines from that poem that I want to turn into a title. Uh, there's a line from Ozymandias called the hand that rocked him and the heart that fed, and I thought that'd be a really cool title for uh, a kind of a horror oriented novel. But the problem with all these titles, they're too long. You Ideally, your best bet as far as marketing and your cover design is a one word title, 2 words maximum. Uh, Sometimes you can get away with 4 words if they're small words, if they're not like long words. Because you get into 4 or 5 words and they're long words, they're not going to fit well in the title. And they're going to make the thumbnail look crowded, busy. They're not going to attract people to the image in the thumbnail of your cover. because that's what's going to attract people's attention first, is the title and the thumbnail. And if you have a title that overwhelms your thumbnail, you're going to hurt your chances of selling that book. So what you need to think about is two things. One, the design, and three things. Two, whether the title fits your genre, and three, how catchy is the title. Now, I know that this causes the artistic part of us to rebel. I don't want a catchy title. I want a title that speaks to my plot, or speaks to my theme. I don't want something generic and cliched. Well, the time to think about your plot and your theme is when you've got people reading your book. It's not, oh, my title has to be true to the art. Your title has to get people to read your book. Your cover has to get people to read your book. And if neither of those is good enough or suitable enough to get people to read the book, then it's not going to matter what your theme is or your plot or the art in the book, because nobody's going to read it. Nobody's going to buy your book. So your challenge is to come up with something that is short, catchy, genre specific, and will sell your book. Now, I'll give you an example of this. When I wrote Duty, Honor, Planet, the original title of the first book in the Duty, Honor, Planet series was Rituals. What does Rituals say? Does Rituals say to you, this is a military science fiction novel? Does it say there's aliens here, that there's intrigue, political intrigue? No, it doesn't say any of that stuff. It doesn't sound like anything. Rituals sounds like a totally different genre. So I changed it. I changed it from Rituals to, then I think I had a question of duty or something like that. And that was better, but it's too long. And it doesn't really grab people's attention. It doesn't grab you into the genre. It sounds vaguely military, but not action-oriented enough. So I was trying to think of something that would really speak to the genre. And I was thinking of military mottos and things that having to do with the military. And I thought of Duty, Honor, Country. And I'm like, wait, Duty, Honor, Planet. Let's do Duty, Honor, Planet. And that really speaks to the genre. It wasn't ideal because it's 3 words, and they're good size words. They're 2-syllable words, so they do take up a lot of the cover. But it was much, much better than anything else I come up with, and this is the first book that I self-published. So pardon me. So I think I did a good job in coming up with that, considering my lack of experience at the time. Then comes, my most successful series, Drop Trooper. Now, I had all kinds of different ideas for titles for that book. They were all over the place, having to do with the main character and everything. But came right down to it, it was about a Marine drop trooper. So, Drop Trooper. It was simple. It was straightforward. It told everybody exactly what to expect from the novel, from the series. And when it came time to title the first book, I started thinking, I should name this after military jargon. Each book going to be named after some piece of military jargon. My friend Jeff Haskell is mad at me because I kind of used up all the short 2 and 3 word uh, bits of military jargon for in the 16 drop trooper books. But the thing that struck me first was contact front. Contact front is a military phrase, if you're not aware, that means that you see the enemy and they see you and they're right in front of you. You could have contact right, contact left, contact rear, contact front. Technically, it should have had a comma, contact, comma, front, and an exclamation point. But the problem is, when you look at the novel as a thumbnail, when you look at the cover as a thumbnail, you don't see the comma, you don't see the exclamation point. So I figured, why bother? Well, I just didn't figure that. My publisher figured that too, and he was right. And it also had an added benefit, because when you take the comma and the exclamation point away, contact front becomes a phrase with multiple meanings in this book. It's contact front, as in the enemy's in front of us. It also means, but it also brings with it the connotation that this guy, this main character, has been alone and avoids contact, and now he's got contact. It's contact front. It also brings the connotation, without saying it, like the front. It's a war front. None of those are what that phrase actually means, but it's added connotation that it gives more depth to the series name, and at the same time stays within genre expectations. It's short, it's catchy. Somebody who's really good at coming up with short, catchy titles, series titles especially, is Jeff Chaney, who I do Taken to the Stars with. When I initially came up with the idea for this, the way Chaney works, you come up with an idea, like an idea for a series, and you go to him and say, "This is my idea," and he'll say, "Okay, this idea will work if you do this and this and this and this." Like he came up with Taken to the Stars. I mean, we came up together, but he said, "I think it should have something to do with him being taken, abducted, taken away." We went up with Taken to the Stars, and he said, that the series would work better if, as it goes along, they get more capabilities. They get, their ship gets more powerful. They get a base of operations. They build their, alliance of people against the Empire. It's a very familiar set of tropes, and it worked well. It's sold really well. People like it. So that's getting the right title was part of that. And if we didn't have the right title, if it wasn't as catchy, then it wouldn't have done as well, because people wouldn't look at the book description. They wouldn't look at the sample. They wouldn't, give the first book a try. So getting the right title for a series and the first book in a series is very key. It's not as important like Drop Trooper. By book 16, was the title important? No, not really. Taken to the Stars, by book 12, which is the last one in the series, was the title important? No. Well, I'll give you another series title that I chose that I had waiting for a long time, and it worked really well. It was a very successful series, and that was Wholesale Slaughter. Now, as a title for a series about a group of mercenaries and mechs, Wholesale Slaughter just screams military science fiction. And after the first book, it didn't matter as much, but I had some cool titles that I wanted to use, and a lot of them were 2-word, 3 words with like short middle word, and they work real well with that series. First one's called Wholesale Slaughter because that's a formula in military science fiction, space opera. If you have a series you need to title the first book the series title. That's just the way it is now. Contact Front didn't do that, but I think if we named it if we named Drop Trooper the first novel in the series, Drop Trooper, that would have worked too. But yeah, once you get into a series and you have some clever titles you want to use, as long as they fit on the cover well and don't make it look cluttery, then that's when you can start using your clever titles like I believe like book 5 in Wholesale Slaughter was called Judas Kiss, and even that was like a little bit of a compromise because I wanted to call it Punic Faith, but I didn't think enough people would know what that means. Punic Faith is a old ancient saying, which means like no faith or bad faith, because they were known for going back on their word. So Punic Faith would be like in bad faith, but not enough people know what that means. So Judas Kiss sounded simple and to the point. So, as I said, if you have more clever and literary style ideas for titles, save them for the later books in the series when it won't matter. But for the first book in a series, or if you just have one book, you need to come up with something that's catchy, and don't get hung up on the artistic nature of it. The time to be artistic is in the writing, not in the title. The title, the cover, the blurb, none of that needs to scream literary or art. What it needs to do is to grab people's attention and point them into reading your book. If you get them reading your book, all that art and stuff, that goes into writing the book. That's not something that you need to worry about with the title. Titles need to be catchy, simple, short. Birthright, one of the first books I wrote, I'm glad I came up with that title for it very early on because it's simple, it's one word, it's easy to put on a cover. Glory Boy. I came up with that one very early on, and it did have the advantages of being short, simple, had to do with the genre and the theme of the book. So all these books, I had different titles for a lot of them. I had I'm trying to think of what on Earth at War. I can't remember what my original title was for Earth at War, but it was not short and it was not on point genre-wise. I think the main problem I had with my initial series titles, my initial book title, was that it was used by another military science fiction writer. I had not read his books and didn't know about it till afterwards. But that was Scott Bartlett's idea to go with War, to go with Earth at War as the series title, because Earth at War was the type of title that was selling military science fiction books at the time. Series with wars in the title were selling. And that's the kind of thing you have to think about when you're making a title, not just, is this artistic? Is this something that's going to express what I'm feeling? It's, will this sell my book? I've also run into the problem where a couple of my series, I published them on my own, and then Aethon wanted to republish them, but they needed a new title for them. And I had what I thought was a really cool title, like, for instance, Interstellar Bounty Hunter. That's a cool title. It's on genre. It's on point. It catches people's eye. Um, but we had to change it to re-release the books. So we started thinking of different possibilities and wound up with something very simple that still told the same type of straightforward point, genre point. Star Bounty, it was the same. Interstellar Bounty Hunter, Star Bounty. It's the same thing. It's shorter. It actually, fit on the cover better, and it worked well. I mean, I had made a little bit of money off those books. Aethon re-released them. I mean, a lot more. I know that this is very mercenary. It's very, very much in the marketing, into the financial part of this. But the reason I bring it up as part of the craft is that people get hung up on the titles. They think about titles for days or weeks sometimes, trying to come up with the exact right title. But they're trying to come up with a title that says what it wants them to say. I mean, says what they wanted to say as a statement about the themes of their book. You need to not be, I don't want to say snobby. Snobby's not the right word. I guess you don't need to be so literary when it comes to titles. If you're writing a book that's going to be in airport bookstores or on the New York Times bestseller list, that's trad published, it's literary fiction, well then, yeah, maybe think of, you need to think about more about titles that reflect the themes and artistic choices of your book. But if you're selling books on Amazon and you're counting on people to see that little thumbnail and look at the title and have it be easily memorable and have it be something that speaks to the genre they want to read, then you need to come up with something that's more about that and not about, your personal artistic needs. Okay, I think I said enough about this, but if you're trying to think up a good title, I would look at the books that are selling in your subgenre, like military science fiction, space opera, hard SF. Look at the titles of the books that are selling and see if they have anything in common. And try to come up with something that fits into that is short, that is catchy, and doesn't cause problems with the lettering on your cover. All right, so if you have any questions or want to suggest a topic to me that we can talk about, you can get a hold of me at facebook.com/dutyhonorplanet or email me at dutyhonorplanet487@gmail.com. Or you can leave a comment here. If you haven't subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. That way you make sure you get notification when I put out a new video. If you want to like the video, that will give other people more chance to see it. I'm not making any money from this, so I'm not going to say jam that like and subscribe button. It's not going to do anything for me. I'm never going to make any money from these videos. So, but if you like and subscribe, you will give other people who might be interested in this subject a chance to see it. And if you want to suggest it to your writer friends or put a link to this channel in your Facebook groups about writing science fiction, feel free. I only do this to help people as best I can. Like I said, it's not making me any money, so I hope that I am helpful in some way to all of you. I will talk to you later on.